We've got exciting news today. We're now up to 101 co-sponsors for our House Joint Resolution 11, sponsored by Representative Ralph Norman. We're getting closer every day to passing term limits on Congress. Hi, I'm Holly Robichaud, and this is breaking news on term limits. Term limits was a big winner in the Old Dominion. Virginia held its primary elections for the legislature. 16 signers of the term limits pledge won their primaries to advance to the general election. A 17th signer won the election outright and won't face a general election opponent. So we're very happy what's happening in Virginia and across the country. We're close to getting term limits passed, our resolution passed in North Carolina, but time's running out very quickly. We're urging everyone from North Carolina to urge their senators to support our term limits resolution. Please contact them today. Now it's time for our updates from the states. In Maine, in a special election for the State House, U.S. term limits pledge signer Abden Simmons was elected. This gives us another supporter in Maine. Congratulations to Abden Simmons. In Virginia, there'll be elections for the state legislature, and we now have 28 legislative candidates who have signed our pledge. We're pleased to have them on board. Each state legislator who supports U.S. term limits resolution in their state is one step closer to passing congressional term limits. Momentum continues to build for our House Joint Resolution 11, filed by Representative Ralph Norman of South Carolina. As I mentioned, the resolution, known as the U.S. Term Limits Amendment, now has 101 co-sponsors and counting, with support from both parties. We're pleased to welcome Representative Max Miller of Ohio, Ann Wagner of Missouri, and Julia Letlow of Louisiana as our latest co-sponsors. We expect more representatives to follow their lead. Could your representative be the next co-sponsors? We hope so. Please contact your U.S. representative and urge them to co-sponsor House Joint Resolution 11 if they already haven't by visiting termlimits.com/118house. Thanks. Kevin McCarthy has promised us a vote on congressional term limits. This would be the first vote on congressional term limits since 1995. That's right, 1995. Think about that. The one issue all Americans agree upon, there hasn't been a vote on it in 28 years. That's a long time, couple decades, almost 3. Please visit termlimits.com/McCarthy to sign our petition urging Kevin McCarthy to bring House Joint Resolution 11 to the floor for a vote as soon as possible. Let's get this done. All right. Hey, today we're joined by Rachel McCubbin, who is our Kentucky chairwoman. She is the bravest person we know in Kentucky because she is taking on the issue of term limits in the home state of Mitch McConnell, and we're so glad she's joining us today. Thank you for joining us, Rachel.
Thank you, Holly. You know, I don't have to be very brave because 84% of my Kentucky co-Kentuckians support term limits. So I'm in great company down here.
Oh, that's great news. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I recently retired, which is kind of fun, but I worked for 2 previous members, or one current member of the U.S. Senate and a previous member, U.S. Senator Jim Bunning, and for 2 terms, U.S. Senator Rand Paul, who is a huge supporter of term limits. And so I come by this kind of naturally. It's an issue that I'm very supportive of. And once I was retired and had the opportunity to get involved in some things where I was stepping out on my own, I was excited to be asked to do this.
All right. Well, we're glad to have you involved. So, so why did you decide to take on this issue in Kentucky, of all places?
Well, I have seen so much up close and personal, you know, from my time of serving in the U.S. Senate. I have a great love for that institution. I'll be quite frank. And I just see that it is grinding to a halt in so many ways. To me, the simple solution is term limits. And I kind of feel like a broken record on this, but I tell everyone, this is not about a referendum on an individual. It's about fixing the total system. So that's why I support term limits across the board, including for people like my friend Rand Paul, and he supports it too. So I had the energy and now the time and bandwidth to get involved with something. So the term limits debate just makes really good sense to me.
Well, we're so glad to have you part of our efforts. So,
Thank
and
you.
how do people in Kentucky, when you tell people, when you're going out there and saying, I'm doing this on term limits, how do people react? I mean, especially with Senator Mitch McConnell down there, and he adamantly opposes us.
Well, I want to start out by saying that I live in the 1st Congressional District, and our congressman is Congressman James Comer, whom people in the district refer to as Jamie Comer, and he is one of the co-sponsors of your legislation in Washington. So people in the 1st District, voters in the 1st District are well represented by a member of Congress who's right on our team here. But I just forge along. I'm not too concerned about who's opposing us. I want to marshal the people that support us. And I just feel like I do sort of a lot of random conversations with people. And I'm not one who would just walk up to a stranger. But let me give you an example. I have a little pup that we're training up and trying to get her socialized and out and about. And I'll just start up a conversation with someone, usually around the pup. And then I'll ask them, how's the economy working for you? How's your business going? And then let me ask you a random question. How do you feel about term limits for Congress? Now, I haven't asked if they're a Republican or a Democrat or an independent. I just want to know how they feel about term limits for Congress. And across the board, it's yes, we support term limits. So our task is now to make sure that our legislators, understand that this is widely held opinion in the constituency, and to pass the resolution we have going in the House in Kentucky, and then to get Speaker McCarthy to make good on a promise I believe that he has made to bring it up for a vote in Washington, which would be very exciting.
Yes. Well, great. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for all the efforts that you're making down there in Kentucky for us. And you're going to help us win that state over. So I am so
well,
glad you're part of our team.
seeing states that are, passing these resolutions. I saw about North Carolina. I'm so proud of them. And we just have to add one state at a time. And we need Kentucky to be close on the heels of North Carolina.
That would be great. That would be great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for the invitation, Holly, and thank you for all the work that you're doing.
Oh, thank you. Now it's time for the Corrupt Politician of the Week. This week, Alaska's Lisa Murkowski makes our list. Murkowski was appointed, that's right, appointed to the United States Senate by her father, who had given up the Senate seat upon his election as governor in 2002. As you can imagine, she's no friend of term limits. In July of 2007, Murkowski said that she would sell back land she bought from an Anchorage businessman, Bob Penny, a day after a watchdog group filed a Senate ethics complaint against her, alleging that Penny sold the property well below market value to her. The Anchorage Daily News wrote the transaction amounted to an illegal gift worth between $70,000 and $170,000, depending on how the property was valued, according to the complaint by the National Legal Policy Center. According to the Associated Press, Murkowski bought the land from two developers tied to a probe of Alaska's other Senator Ted Stevens. In 2008, Murkowski amended her Senate ethics financial disclosure for 2004 through 2006, adding income of $60,000 per year for the sale of the property in 2003 and more than $40,000 a year for the sale of the Alaska Pasta Company in 2005. Lots of deals. Time for term limits, don't you think? Congressional term limits can become a reality. Look at the momentum we've got. We now have 101 co-sponsors on our House Joint Resolution 11. But we can't do it alone. We need your help. Please go to termlimits.com and get involved today. And be sure to share this program with your friends every week. This is Holly Robichaud with U.S. Term Limits Breaking News. See you next week.